Springfield Talk 1041. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. My name is Nick Reed. Today is Thursday. Tomorrow we'll be at Scramblers, the Friday Road Show, sponsored by Shirley's Heating and Air. That's where we do the show every Friday. And love for you to come out and join us. The doors do open at 6 a.m. Today being Thursday, Christy Fulnecki will join us. We have Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. And your text messages. You want to weigh in, thoughts, opinions, just jokes, whatever you want to do. You can text that stuff, pics, sunsets, sunrises, your dog, whatever you want to send in, you can do so. Appropriate, of course. The Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447 KSGF. One of the breaking news items, if you will, that unfolded overnight. There was a shooting outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C., leaving 2 staffers for the Israeli embassy dead. The Metropolitan Police Department held a press conference a short time ago revealing that 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez of Chicago had been taken into custody. And according to the reports, law enforcement and witnesses, he was chanting free Palestine while in custody. Well, what a shocker. More anti-Semitism. It just, if you have an entire, I don't know how much more we could stress this. If you have a political party that caters to anti-Semitism, and you can run around claiming all you want, but we don't condone violence. When you cater to anti-Semitism, you have an entire political party that gives it life, gives it oxygen, makes it feel validated. It takes what otherwise might be just, let's say just normal everyday Democrats that aren't anti-Semitic, but they see unfold after October 7th, particularly on university campuses, anti-Semitism, just brazen, calling for the death of Jews, the death of Israel, creating conditions on university campuses in which universities, or you have Jewish students that are barricading themselves into rooms for protection. They're being spit upon. Instances of Jewish students being assaulted on college campuses, all in the name of free speech, of course. You have university presidents testify before Congress that when it comes to their own community standards, you have certain community standards the university sets in place in order to protect students, testifying that calling for the extermination of Jews is not a violation of their standards, as we saw some university presidents do. And then you have a political candidate whose no-brainer of a VP pick is not chosen specifically because he's Jewish. You will have some Democrat voters that weren't anti-Semitic that starts to think, well, I guess they have a point. I mean, it is free speech after all. And it softens it. It softens the rejection of anti-Semitism. It makes it seem like it's not so bad. I mean, if you can have one of 2 major political candidates for the presidency reject someone because he's a Jew on the running ticket, that begins to normalize within that political party, and for a lot of people within that particular culture, it normalizes that level of anti-Semitism, and it's only natural that you will see that grow. It's only natural that you will have people feel emboldened to wait outside an embassy, all in the name of the political Free Palestine movement, and shoot up a couple Jews. Now, of course, this will be largely ignored. which also is part of the problem, making it seem like, it's not that big of a deal. You know, shootings happen all the time. I mean, crime is high in Washington, D.C. anyhow, so, you shouldn't draw too many conclusions from this. That also gives cover. This attempt to protect you had Marco Rubio battling it out with Democrat members of Congress during hearings because they are angry that people from foreign countries come to the United States as guests on student visas. And then when they promote anti-Semitism, this administration says, you know what? You're no longer invited to be here as a guest. And the Democrats pitch a fit about it. Come to their defense, specifically anti-Semites. And all of this groundswell of defense, specifically for young people in particular that call for the death of Jews, calls to finish what Hitler started, the elimination of Israel. This is the natural result of it. And the other natural result is going to be people on the political folks on the left. Oh, no, that doesn't have anything to do with us. No. Of course not. In fact, probably some indignation. How dare you? How dare you try to politicize this? Oh, really? Okay. At the same time, and we're going to get latest news update and traffic. A couple of days ago, published May 17th, CBS News. Combat sport clubs used to boost recruitment for white nationalist hate group, report says. Now, this is something that the Democrats have been driving for some time, and we saw it a lot from the previous administration. While you have clear actual violence being carried out by people who are driven by hate, actual violence, actual people being targeted and killed, the left keeps creating these scenarios of, oh, no, over here, this is where the real problem is. Well, sure, they're not actually doing anything dangerous, but we need to really worry about them. You need to keep a watchful eye on them. It's distraction. It's like an illusionist. They're distracting you over here while the trick is occurring over here, sleight of hand. And there couldn't be any more perfect of a side-by-side to illustrate this fantasy world, this gaslighting that we continue to see about whom it is in our society that we need to be concerned about in terms of targeting people because of their religion or ethnicity. Jews being picked off in the streets. Oh, no, but sports clubs. Now, that's what we got to watch out for because these white nationalists, that's their new recruiting spot. Thanks, CBS. And, of course, their go-to is the Southern Poverty Law Center, an organization that is it is as much, if not, it's actually a more dangerous scam than Black Lives Matter. Because it didn't take long for BLM and all of the money that they were being handed, hand over fist, and the mansions and the fancy cars and the trips that they were blowing it on, not actually spending it on anything meaningful for the black community. People picked up on that, but the Southern Poverty Law Center still is given credibility when they do the same thing. Weather in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the morning and then mostly sunny skies with a high near 75. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 48. For your Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 73. And looking ahead to Saturday, an 80% chance of showers throughout the day with a high near 70.
Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. You got a home buying needs? You got Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. What are you going to sell? You're just thinking you want to look at a house? You're thinking about selling, but you don't know what your house is worth. Do you have to do upgrades? Whatever it is, she is your absolute go-to. I read the reviews. I read the reviews to you. I've told you about, the experience I've had with her, of course, much more extensively. Sarah and her family, the incredible experience they had with that very long search for the home, which at times Emily was like the driving force behind not giving up. And oftentimes that can be very easy to do. You get frustrated, and sometimes you start to settle. It's like when you're lonely and you've been dating a while and you just, you really want to be with someone and you start overlooking their flaws and you start excusing certain behavior because you're tired of being alone. Well, you need to buy a new home. You're looking for a new home and you go into it and you have all these things. Well, we got to have this. Got to have that second bedroom at least, or third bedroom, because the kids we got must have a fenced-in backyard, need to have a fireplace. You have all these requirements. Well, after a while, if you don't find it, well, this house is pretty good. She's there to remind you. She's that stabilizing force. Now, listen, it's your decision, but don't forget. When we started this, these were the things that you said that you needed, and these were the reasons. So just keep that in mind. That's who she is. She's not there to get you to buy something as quickly as possible. She's there to look out for you. She's like little Jiminy Cricket on your shoulder sometimes there, conscious. Being your guide. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, for all of your home buying needs, home selling needs. And you can find her under Nick's Endorsements, KSGF.com. I printed off this story a couple of days ago. And it just, other things ended up taking priority that were very timely. Not that this wasn't an important story, but things that are timely pop up, and 3 hours goes by a lot faster than one might think. And today it just seemed very appropriate, given that there was what appears to be the targeting of two individuals that are staffers at the Israeli embassy by a Elias Rodriguez, 30-year-old from Chicago, Illinois. And as he was taken into custody, according to numerous reports, he was chanting "Free Palestine." This isn't anything that I think any intelligent observer is going to be surprised that we've gotten to this level with the anti-Semitic DEI rhetoric that we have, to some degree, normalized in this country. I thought, though, that, okay, this is a perfect time to share with you the story that I've had for the past couple of days. CBS News: combat sport clubs used to boost recruitment for white nationalist hate group, report says. This is a continuation of something that began under the Biden administration. to create this world in which we all fear potential violence from people that, even if they do exist, aren't responsible for actual violence that is going on right now. It is embarrassing, given that we have seen university campuses all across this country filled. If you add it up, must be at least thousands, if not tens of thousands of people, sometimes taking over entire buildings in the name of eliminating the Jews. Yet that is treated as, well, it's just free speech protest, no big deal. Now let's talk about the real danger in this country: combat sport clubs being used to boost recruitment for white nationalist hate groups. And of course, their go-to for gaslighting is Southern Poverty Law Center, a completely discredited organization that has been responsible for the killing and the shooting at a center several years ago, a conservative organization that was listed by the Southern Poverty Law Center as a hate group, and the person who went there to kill as many of those people as he openly told police, well, yeah, I went to the Southern Poverty Law Center. They're the ones who posted that these are bad people. Despite that, how ironic is this? That an organization that has specifically been cited by at least one shooter as the source of his information that led him to the shooting, they are used and legitimized by national media outlets to paint other people as being a problem. Combat Sports Club, this is, I'll read to you part of the story from CBS News. This is national. Combat sport clubs have been used to boost recruitment for a white nationalist hate group, according to a report released by the legal advocacy organization Southern Poverty Law Center. The report tracks the efforts of the Patriot Front, one of the most visible groups in the white national movement, formed following the deadly Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, 2017, and their focus on recruiting new members through active clubs. The Southern Poverty Law Center said these clubs are smaller, looser networks of white supremacist groups where members train in mixed martial arts. Through sport, they bond over white nationalist ideologies. The clubs also maintain a robust online presence to encourage young men to become radicalized. Patriot Front is using these groups to expand their reach while maintaining a low profile, the report said, to evade researchers and law enforcement. Now, what is just hilarious about this, the writing up of this, is that in the previous paragraph, they are described as, quote, one of the most visible groups in the movement. In the subsequent paragraph, however, they claim that the group is expanding their reach while maintaining a low profile, evading researchers and law enforcement. Now, that seems like a bit of a contradiction, doesn't it? On one hand, they're this secret group that is so evasive, law enforcement's having a hard time figuring out what's going on with them. But on the other hand, they are the most visible group of white nationalism all across this country. The report's author said it serves as a way to hide some of the Patriot Front's movements. Patriot Front and other white nationalist groups fueling the expansion of extremist groups in the U.S. and control at least a dozen clubs nationwide. Since 2023, there's been a 14% increase in hate groups, according to SPLC, which says it tracks 1,430 hate and anti-government groups across the country. And it goes on to, try and paint this picture that in America, these are the people you need to worry about. This is according to the Southern Poverty Law Center. Not the people that are actually going around calling for violence against Jews or Republicans or conservatives and then actually do it. Not the professors that openly call for the elimination of Jews, not for university presidents that say our community standards welcome people who call for a second Holocaust. Or the Jewish people, many of which have fled back to Israel, fled the United States because of their safety, most on university campuses, students. No, you're supposed to believe that your local gym, your local taekwondo, karate, dojo, that's the real breeding place for white supremacists, and that's who we need to be afraid of. Really? Tell that to the couple that was just shot down, that apparently, according to one report, they were supposed to be married in Jerusalem soon. They were engaged to one another. Tell that to those two individuals. Shot by the guy subsequently chanting Free Palestine. I suppose he was, probably got his start with one of these white nationalistic MAGA extremists at some sort of Fight Club event. Now, the Southern Poverty Law Center, again, it is incredibly irresponsible to continue to validate this organization, an organization that has been directly responsible for people being killed. I forget the name of the organization, but there was an individual, and he took Chick-fil-A to make a point with a gun. Fortunately, he was stopped by a security guard that I believe lost his life in the incident. And he told police, I was going to kill as many of those people as possible. Southern Poverty Law Center gave me that list. Put them on a list. That's what I used. You have outlets still using them? Still, the FBI even, so the FBI at one point used the Southern Poverty Law Center as a go-to to figure out what hate groups existed, knowing that they were left-wing. But even to them, they realized, we got to kind of disconnect ourselves from this group. And not to mention just the money scam. There are numerous different stories and op-ed pieces, people who used to work at the Southern Poverty Law Center. The founder was a guy that he was like a marketing guy. It was all about making money. It's all money, just like BLM. Same thing. And, in fact, we'll get a couple of these pieces up. There's a Daily Caller piece, highly profitable scam, Southern Poverty Law Center ripping off donors, according to former staffers. There was a piece written some time ago by a former openly gay employee of the Southern Poverty Law Center, titled The Reckoning of Morris D's and the Southern Poverty Law Center. And, his experience, and Morris D., the founder, ended up getting forced out, a lot of it because of accusations of sexual harassment and just, poorly spent money. It is an awful, horrible organization that has had such a tremendously negative and violent impact on our society, and shame on any news outlet that validates them. Especially, hilariously, to point to other people as being a part of dangerous organizations. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Turnpike Troubadours and Treaty Oak Revival. Thunder Ridge Nature Arena, Saturday, August 30th. Why do I tell you this? Well, might, of course, be interested in purchasing tickets for it, but maybe even winning them as well. You can do so, potentially, get registered to potentially do so by going to KSGF.com.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the morning and then mostly sunny skies with a high near 75. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 48. For your Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 73. And looking at Saturday, an 80% chance of showers throughout the day with a high near 70.
One of the things I love about Trump is he will do certain things that have their intended purpose. And the people who are a spoke in the wheel of that purpose don't even realize it. Like for a guy that the media believes to be such a dunce, some unsophisticated Wreck-It Ralph, he plays them. And he sometimes, I think even Trump supporters don't realize what's going on. The latest example, this confrontation, the Zelensky 2.0, South African leader, president, South Africa, in the Oval Office. They're sitting there chatting. And Trump displays with the South African president sitting there, with the media there watching, observing, plays all sorts of videos of political leaders, among other things, in his country calling for the killing of white farmers. And also the graves of thousands of white farmers and so forth. This is in the context of the media flipping out and Democrats mad, openly angry. There are hearings regarding this, that the Trump administration gave refugee status to 59 white families from South Africa. 59. Now, these are people, talking about the Democrats, who choose to defend the worst when it comes to illegal immigrants into this country. We had like 20 million that the previous administration let pour into this country. I mean, some of these Democrats flew to El Salvador in order to defend the rights of a wife-abusing drug dealer. But all of a sudden, we finally found a way for Democrats to be opposed to a refugee, and that is for them to be white. 59. The reason for this is because, and this is why the refugee status was even created. It's not because, well, your country sucks, or you want a better life, or you would do anything for a better life. That's not what it was for. It was for if your life is in danger because of who you are, beyond any way that you can change. And it being either at the hands of your government or something that your government can't help. So, like, if you're a white person, and because you are white, you are targeted, that is the sort of thing. Christians in the Middle East would be another example. Certain countries in the Middle East and in parts of Africa as well, certain villages, Christians are targeted. Entire villages are burned to the ground. Christians are slaughtered by the hundreds upon hundreds. That would also be the sort of individual that would be recognized as a refugee. Now, what is great about what Trump, this is the trick that he's played here. He creates a scenario in which the media has no choice but to at least acknowledge the allegations of these racist policies of South Africa. So what has occurred up until yesterday is that you have a lot of people, and they get their news from the mainstream media or from late night talk show hosts, and they have never even heard about the laws passed in South Africa saying that if you're white, the government can just come take your land from you because you're white. They have no idea that some of the nationally accepted songs that are sung at sporting events are about killing white farmers. Most Americans have no idea. And even after the granting of refugee status to 59 of these individuals, the media, what they do is this is all framed as Democrats, accusing the administration of, well, it's just because they're white. This is just all about race. They just found random white people across the world, and they thought, oh, you're white, so we'll let you in, even though you face no danger whatsoever. So what Trump does is he creates a situation that the media cannot ignore. Because once again, and not that he necessarily needed the recent history in order to validate his belief here, but a little bit of uncomfortableness in the Oval Office with the world leader, Zelensky, anyone? Boy, the media really ran with that. So he does it again, knowing full well that the media is going to, but what was the cause of the uncomfortable, and how dare you? Oh, I mean, they're already Democrats. He's just embarrassed the United States of America. But what a lot of average Americans are seeing for the first time, oh, wow, look at these videos of these politicians, these political leaders in South Africa calling for the murder of white farmers. Oh, wait, you mean they actually passed a law that says the government can take away farmland from white families simply because they're white? For no other reason but that? Oh, culturally, there are songs that are known by men, women, and children that are sung at stadium events about murdering white farmers. Trump forces the media to cover what it is that they don't want people to know. Now, obviously, not everyone is going to get the full exposure to this, and you will have racist people on the left that will do what racists usually do and deny that any of this is actually happening, sort of like Holocaust deniers. No, this isn't true. Look, the people responsible said it isn't true. Oh, okay. So that's still going to occur. But you will have a segment of the population that are going to recognize for the very first time, because of what Trump did here, and they're going to see the videos, and they're going to start researching this and finding out, oh my gosh, this is horrific. This is just an awful thing. Yeah, this makes total sense that these people are brought here as refugees. Trump's right on this. And they're going to see Democrats just once again playing the race card. And essentially taking the position that these people, because they're white, so what if they get killed? So what if they get tortured? They're white after all. There was one Democrat commentator on CNN last week that said they should just go back to wherever their ancestors came from. Oh, all of a sudden, that's not a racist remark? Go back where you came from? Okay. If you're white, of course it's not. But regardless of the color, it's still racism. And what Trump did brilliantly yesterday, and, this is getting that he's really calling them out. Well, yeah, he is. But part of it is to expose this, knowing that the media won't help but be able to cover this. And like I said, there are going to be a lot of left-wingers that, how dare he? How dare he do this? But those people don't care about the truth anyhow. It's the normal, level-headed thinking American that hasn't been aware of this because of the media's attempt to cover it up for, the purpose of helping the Democrat messaging, that they're the ones that he's targeting on this. And I'm going to tell you that to a large degree it's going to be successful. I love when he does stuff like that. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Now, the attempt by the media to once again mislead people as to what's going on in South Africa. And the funny thing about this, I should also note, for people that the vast majority of people have, don't follow what's going on in South Africa. The thing about this, though, this isn't like new news. This has been going on for some time now. The increasingly dangerous environment for white farmers, white family, and this includes children, and the murders of them. This isn't something that just started occurring, but now because the Trump administration, amongst the millions of refugees that come into this country, allowed 59 white people, now Democrats have a real problem with this. And so they're trying to act as if this is just some new claim that's made up. This has not even been this isn't a claim that really anyone has pushed back against in any large degree. Because everybody knows it's going on. They passed a freaking law. I mean, it's on the books saying that if you're a white farmer, the government can, if they just decide that they want to, take it away from you and not give you any fair market value, but just screw you. They passed a law. I don't know how much more clear you can get than that. One of the leaders of one of the top political parties in Africa openly talks about killing white farmers. Leads rallies about it. None of this is secret. That being said, listen to this headline. Now, it's an AP story, but it's on ky3.com. Trump confronts South African leader with baseless claims of the targeted killing of white farmers. This is 100% modern-day Holocaust denialism. Clearly, the scope of killings is not on par with what happened in Nazi Germany with the Holocaust, but the approach is the same. Here's a category of people that are really somewhat problematic. We can take property from them if we want to without any sort of compensation because they're really bad. And by the way, they probably should be dead anyway. It's the exact same approach that the Socialist Party of Germany, known as the Nazis, took against the Jews. And much like this sort of headline, outlets like the New York Times, for example, dismissed the efforts of the German socialists, pretended as if it wasn't happening. These are just rumors. Look, we interviewed some Jews that said they're just fine, so that means all of this is made up. Oh, here, we have an expert over here. By the way, we spoke to someone within the German Socialist Workers' Party, an official, and they said this isn't true. So, if you had fact checkers in the day, it would have been checked as false. To have a headline, Trump confronts South African leader with baseless claims of the targeted killing of white farmers. Are you out of your mind? Baseless claim. At the meeting, this was the uncomfortable part, he played a video. Of elected leaders, of party leaders, calling for the death of white farmers. They passed a law. I know I'm being repetitive here, but I then to have media outlets in this country, those are baseless claims. I guess the Holocaust didn't happen too. Now, like I said, I suspect, KY3, the headline, if they post an AP story, headline comes along with it, and it's probably not even an actual news person that posts and populate that, and I understand that. But at some point, it's like, for Pete's sakes, really? We're really going to just pretend that this isn't happening? It's amazing the parallels between this, again, much smaller scale, but same approach, and those who deny the Holocaust. Part of the video that Trump showed were these mass grave sites of white farmers. Well, those aren't. I mean, we don't really know. That's the exact same thing that Holocaust deniers say when you show them footage of concentration camps. I mean, see, the same thing. It's insane to watch this history repeat itself. The BBC had a real interesting article admitting that, yeah, it's true. But crime's really bad in South Africa, and black people are killing black people all the time there. So it's, it all comes out about the same. White people being killed because they're white. Hey, it's just a real crappy place for everyone. So, that's just their lot in life. Oh, isn't it amazing how compassionate and what humanitarians the left are when it really comes down to it? Incidentally, the president of South Africa, in response to the video proof of politicians, elected leaders, and others in Africa calling for the death and killing of white farmers, his response was, "Well, that's not our official policy." Well, okay. We don't actually have that written down anywhere. We stopped at saying government can just confiscate property from white people. Again, this has been done before. But in terms of actual killing them, that's not official anywhere. That's not our official policy. Oh, well, I guess Democrats are right. Jiminy Christmas. Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor, turning your outdoor area into a living space. We've got that land. If you're a homeowner, even if your yard isn't some huge yard, it's very expensive. And if you break down how much it is per square feet, you're spending a lot of money. Yet, think about how little we actually use it oftentimes. That's where Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor comes into place. You can turn it into a living area, whether that's just for you, a little small, intimate area, or if you are looking to do something much more, like have an area for entertaining. I know for me, it's about a combination of things. It's about having a place that I can keep my Traeger smoker. I can keep a Blackstone, which I have yet to get, but I'm going to. Then we can have a nice eating area outside, and so I don't have to drag it in and out of the garage. It's just about creating an atmosphere that helps make it easier and encourage the family to spend time together outside in this part of the yard that we just really don't utilize as much as we should, given that we paid for it. And Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor can do the same thing for you as well, including the designing of it. And maybe you actually have a business that could benefit from this and really up your game in terms of your overall presence to clientele and customers. They can do that for you as well. There's a timeline that is in play here. These aren't just, get a bunch of stuff into the back of the truck from a big box store and slap something together. So if you're looking maybe to have something done, created and done in the fall, I recommend you reach out to them now. HunterHardscapes.com, also KSGF.com. You can find them under Nick's endorsements. Christy Fulnecki coming up in the upcoming hour. And again, we do have Author of the Week in the 8 a.m. hour, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Hello, everyone. How do you do? Great time to get a new vehicle from Pinnaker Honda, or perhaps even a pre-owned vehicle financing 0.99% on select certified pre-owned Hondas, which is absolutely incredible. I wanted to read to you what Julie had to say. Hands down, the best experience I've had purchasing a vehicle. Jennifer Moore, you rocked my socks off. Thank you for making what could have been a stressful decision one of the easiest ones I've made in a long time. I love my Accord. If you are in the market for a vehicle and are tired of the sales pitches and pressure to buy, go see Jennifer at Pinnaker. She'll make your experience in deciding an easy one. Terry said very impressed with the mindset as well as the streamlined process of purchasing an automobile. Monique, Jennifer, and their ancillary staff, big word, made it easy and quick, minimal paperwork, quick turnaround, and professional from beginning to end. Great dealership. That's Pinnaker Honda. Of course, Pinnaker family has a number of different locations, but for all of those Honda needs, and of course, again, that 0.99% on select pre-owned vehicles, they're at Pinnaker Honda, South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn. And new purchases for the summer. You get, or new purchases now, free gas for the summer. So there's an added bonus. They got all sorts of cool incentives going on over there. You can find them also KSGF.com under Nick's endorsements. Hey, everyone. Christy Fulnecki.
Good morning.
Hey.
It's a great day in the Ozarks.
We were having our lunch bunch yesterday at Retro
know,
Metro, and there you guys are.
right.
I told Morgan when I got home last night, I said, oh, the Fulneckis were there when we were having lunch bunch. And I said it was really weird because they acted like we were in some foreign country and they saw me. They're like, what's going on? Why are you? They're like, well, first off, we both kind of live in the area, so it's not like we're in
That's true.
France or something. And we do have lunch bunch here every Wednesday. Yeah, every week. Yeah. But yeah, you guys both were like just shocked and perplexed. What are you doing here?
That's right.
Well, it's
I never get to go to lunch because I'm always so busy, but
yeah.
made it a point. That's a great restaurant.
What area cab?
Oh, yeah, the tuna. And I had a salad.
I haven't had that yet. Was it?
Oh, it was really good. Yeah. Yeah, I hit it. It was great.
Trying
to eat our protein.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's a good thing to eat.
I need to have that in my prepping storage for my estate that I'm building.
Yes, the Fulnecki estate.
That's right.
Are you gonna have, because you do have a long driveway? Are you gonna have some sort of well, I don't know what you'd call, like an archway at the beginning of it for you to drive through? Yeah,
that kind of thing.
You need it to be tree-lined, too.
Yeah. Oh, well, no, yeah. And our driveway is actually, I don't know if you remember that because it was at night. I think
it was
when you were
night
there.
when I came over.
Yeah. So, but then you pull up and then it's like the big brick with the columns and everything. And, I know it's going to be on the sign. Kiki the Comanche.
Yes, Kiki.
I've talked about what Eric's name is, which
Did he decide what?
Well, yeah, but the funny thing is, I was getting my hair done. I was telling the ladies that were doing my hair, and they laughed for so long. It's I can't even say it. It's Cactus Jack.
Okay, I think that's awesome. So like,
you need a logo like Cactus Jack
and
Kiki the Comanche.
I just really look forward to the day that this grandchild is in, I don't know, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and they're going around. All right, so now where did everyone go for Easter? I went to Kiki the Comanche and Cactus Jack's house. It'll be like,
they drug dealers?
Yeah. Yeah, did you have a fake ID to get into that place?
And then the next day we went to a Dave Matthews concert.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking about
what a culture you've created.
About a logo. Yeah, we're not the typical grandparents. And I don't know if it was Banana Republic or one of the kids, and it was the guy with the big banana hat. I can't think of what it is. So I could use something like that for his logo, and then some type of feather situation for my.
I think that you should have like cherubs lining the whole. Up to have animatronic ones where they sort of flying on these wires. You could have suspension wires across, and they could just swoop down as vehicles come in.
My Arabian horses, my camels Just like how they.
You could use some more parking space.
Yes, we are having a parking lot.
Yeah, because
Oh,
I'm always
that's right.
in like on your lawn.
I know, that's right. Well, it's funny because we have all these kids, and all our
Yeah.
kids' friends want to come to our house, so we have people parking all over the place. So that
I was telling Sarah yesterday that I was unsuccessful in convincing you all that piece of land between the river and the house. I wanted you to create like a water park. Remember, with a lazy river
right.
and everything, and
actually down there is a floodplain, so it is a water park as it floods.
we'll see. So you don't even have to worry about filling it yourself.
That's right.
You could have it as a
Just slide.
natural
Well,
fed.
remember the idea that we had that.
Snakes.
I wonder if anybody's interested in this,
I
but
don't
we
care.
don't care. That's
I don't
okay.
care.
But
This isn't a very good show.
feels like we're the only ones here because there's only 3 of us here. About camping down there. Do you remember this whole thing? And then we were going to get on the river. Stephanie had this idea, I think, and
That's
doing that.
right.
And I have no
I had
interest in
forgotten
camping
about
at
that.
yeah, because we own over the James River. We just found out yesterday over
On the
to
other
other side. Yeah, we own property too. So we own the river. I guess
So
we
you
don't
could build
own
a bridge. Oh, I don't know. You
no,
probably
you can. It has to be like 20, 30, 40, whatever
got to
above.
be
Yeah.
even navigable.
Oh yeah.
Nav-
You can build a lot of stuff up there. We don't own the water, but we own underneath James River.
Oh,
Yeah.
We'll build a tunnel.
So well, that's good. That could be part of my prepping plan.
Yeah.
That I have.
Excellent.
In case we have nuclear war.
Have like a glass roof so you can look up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Actually, we could take ideas. And
You know what? I really feel all this very realistic planning coming together. Let me tell you that. We got traffic in a moment. Also, weather right now. The latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the morning and then mostly sunny with a high near 75. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 48. For your Friday, mostly sunny skies with a high near 73. And looking ahead to Saturday, an 80% chance of showers throughout the day with a high near 70.
I want a great homeloan.com. You have home loan needs. You're going to look at a house. You're thinking, oh, there's an open house on Sunday, 2 to 4. I mean, we're probably not going to buy it. If it was the perfect house, we would. First, get that pre-approval with the characters and the team, because if you do happen to decide, I mean, there's no downside to it. You can find out where you stand. And then if it is something that you think we want this is perfect, and you say, hey, what do you want? Okay, we'll do it. But now Monday, we're good for it. We promise you Monday we're going to call our folks and we're going to get started on the process. But then somebody else comes in and they're like, oh, we're already approved for this, so we can do it. Guess who loses? You lose out. So make that the first part of the process before you even start looking at homes. Okay? It's easy. And it all starts at iwantagreathomeloan.com, because you do. Christy Fulnecki is with us. You've been following the James Comey thing and the great seashell finder.
Gosh. He talked about my kids teenager word about rage baiting.
No, what's rage baiting?
When you make someone so mad that they go into a rage. My kids always say that. I know all kinds of slang now, but
rage baiting, I like it.
Yeah, so he is rage baiting us, because every time now he's throwing his wife under the bus, and he's saying that when he references the wait staff in restaurants, talking about they use the word 86. I'm like, are you kidding me? You are the director of the FBI. The supreme law enforcement officer, you know what it is.
Part of me thinks that potentially he is deliberately making it obvious he's lying, just to kind of middle finger the Trump administration. You know what I mean? Like, we all know that I did this, but there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, that's probably true.
And because who was I listening to? There was some interview. It may have been Jim Jordan. It was someone who was part of the questioning of Comey behind closed doors.
Oh.
I don't even if it was Operation Hurricane or for what purpose. But they said behind closed doors, you really see he's very just arrogant and has this "you can't touch me" smarmy attitude that he doesn't. He's very manipulative.
Yeah.
He's almost kind of like a sociopath, that he can turn on or turn off that personality, and then he kind of the golly gee whiz, straight as an arrow guy when he knows that the cameras are on. And part of me wonders if the excuse or the explanation he gives for how it played out is deliberately so stupid that it's like taunting.
Yeah,
taunting law enforcement, taunting Secret Service, taunting the Trump administration, taunting Trump supporters. That we all know. I mean, I can make up this absurd, and there's nothing you can do.
Rage baiting.
That's
right.
Rage baiter. Now he was doing a book signing.
Oh,
yes.
This is epic.
And
I saw this.
so
yes.
Jesse Waters sent one of his people out to go to this book signing. Now, just so you get a visual of what's going on, you have James Comey. He's sitting there at a bookstore. Like, you can imagine this. And he's signing books. And then the correspondent for Jesse Waters, I think Jonathan is his name, Johnny. This is the exchange that he has with James Comey at the book signing.
Comey, how are you? Jesse Waters from the question. Why are you on an 86 Trump? I'm not taking a question like that. Why would you post that? Director Comey, how was your interview with the Secret Service? You want the book signed, really? Absolutely. Can you sign my seashell too? Which beach is this that you're going to? You find a Kamala seashell, 8647. This is a politically charged beach there. I know. Come on.
All right.
Sign it? Thank you.
They walk him off. He actually had a seashell. He laid it down. Will you sign my seashell?
I love that Kamala seashell.
Yeah, he's like, and what beach are you finding all these politically charged?
It's probably his own personal private beach.
Yeah.
I know, that's right. Well, isn't it interesting how, and I thought he doesn't have enough courage to say anything to Fox because they're going to push him on it. He says all of the stupid stuff to the media when he's doing those interviews.
What an embarrassment to this country.
He is. And he's so arrogant to think that we're so stupid that we would believe his explanation.
His existence is really also a highlight of the elite
Yeah,
and
right.
the
Yeah.
the the frenemy situation between Republicans and Democrats, because at one point James Comey, oh, he was just above board. Oh, he was so by everyone. Democrats loved him, Republicans, all the establishment people just went on and on about how, he's just one of the few that everyone agrees upon. That should be a red flag. I think that
I
we should,
know, yeah.
anytime that you see the establishment, Republicans and Democrats, all coming together behind someone, that should be a huge red flag to all of us.
Well, I
And
mean,
James Comey's a perfect example of
and
it.
to think someone like that could become the head of the FBI, that's so shocking. But you could say that of everyone. The Attorney General under Biden, everyone that he had in there was a complete train wreck.
Speaking of the New Jersey Congresswoman LaMonica McIver,
Oh, yeah.
charges have been filed against her because of her physical altercation with law enforcement. All of a sudden, these
And
Democrats
you know,
are
it's
just
great. Now there's a Republican U.S. attorney in there in New Jersey. So Alina, his old attorney, is the U.S. attorney now.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and this is why.
So of course, Democrats are saying it's baseless. I mean, she's on video assaulting these
Yeah.
agents. She claims that they created the situation by, I guess, not letting her just storm into the facility. Which it was noted later, there were a number of people that just asked, "Hey, can we come in and check it out?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's fine." So it's not like it's cut off. They let media in, which, by the way, they never did with the DC jail.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I could go on and on about that.
Now, can you
Oh,
imagine?
yeah.
And
I
here,
barely got in there, and I was attorney.
now, picture this. If this scene played out this exact same way, except it was Marjorie Taylor Greene trying to get in to see J6ers, and she was physically tussling with law enforcement, would Democrats be saying,
yeah.
"Oh, now you keep your hands off her. She's just doing her job"? Of
No.
course not, because they're
They
lying.
wouldn't let
Trash.
and they wouldn't let anyone from Congress
Right.
go into the DC jail.
Yeah.
And I can personally attest to that because I was there, and they wouldn't let any of them go in there.
And now
And-
these same Democrats are, that supported that, were completely supportive of that, are saying that they are, without appointment, they should be able to just physically assault law enforcement in order to go in and see gangbangers and child rapists to defend them.
Well, I thought it
it's-
was pretty epic to release that Noam release the body cam footage.
Yeah.
I mean, because then she looks like an idiot.
Well, but they
And-
and this is where I guess the upside for the American people, that Democrats are in such a just detachment mode. They still go out there and they act like the video doesn't show anything.
I know, that's right.
And so this
But-
again is where they lose the average person, even some Democrat voters, because they're like, "Oh, we see you on video doing this. It's right in front of our very eyes."
I know, and they look like a bunch of crazy people. And the funny thing is Trump keeps winning. You know that is driving them crazy because they're like thinking, "I'm going to get Trump," and then he came back and he's like, "I don't even know who this woman is," which is so funny. And like one sentence, he totally discredits whoever this congresswoman is. He's like, "I don't even know who this woman is, but we're going to have law and order in our country." And I thought, well, like 90% of the people are going to agree with him.
Democrat constitutional attorney Jonathan Turley said of her argument that she was just doing this was part of her job on oversight. He said, quote, "I doubt seriously the congresswoman's going to make that argument in court because it's legally absurd."
Well, they just look like
He said the fact that you went there for an oversight or legislative purpose is beside the point. You can't go to a bank for a legitimate purpose, but if you rob the bank, that's a problem.
Yeah, I know.
If you go to a facility
good
to ask to
point.
be let in and they refuse, and then you storm the gate, that's also a problem. Both of these things are crimes.
And why do they keep doing this? Remember at Department of Education, and they're all
Yeah,
in and out, and the security guy was
because they're above the law. They have been used to being treated as if they're above the law. They're used to being able to do whatever they want, and just live as if the law does not apply to them.
I mean, this is so great. I mean, it's frustrating sometimes with the media, like when you were talking the last hour about the epic conversation that Trump had in the White House. That was awesome. But it's just so satisfying to see the Democrats come unglued. And I think Trump is loving it. I think he's loving every minute of it. But I mean, I thought that, I know you talked about it last hour, but I mean, to have another, I guess is his title president, the South African president. Okay. I mean, the guy seemed pretty arrogant, but I mean, Trump just kept going and going and going. I thought there would be very few people that would have enough courage, which I would totally do that, but that would call somebody out and they're sitting right next to him.
Well, and I think it is, again, dual purpose, which the thing Trump, and I think this is part of just the way he's operated for so long, and he doesn't ever take these things personal and just the business world and getting things done. It doesn't make him uncomfortable at all to be like, hey, here's what's going on. While even for, I think, Trump supporters watching something like that can be a little uncomfortable because you're like, oh my gosh, and they're showing the video and look at all the people and everything. But the other purpose, I believe, is this was a way that he knew the media would not be able to not cover it.
Right.
And it was a way for him to get the media to show, or at least tip off people that, look, there's video out there of these politicians calling for the murder of white farmers. There is a law they passed saying that the government, if you're white, they can take your land without any reason or compensation, and then Democrats are out there just like Holocaust deniers, pretending like none of this is happening whatsoever, and this is a way to force the media to cover it to some degree.
And again, be on the crazy side for mass killing.
Yeah.
But I mean, he is such a historic president. I mean, he doesn't have to do these things, but look what he's doing. I mean, he's promoting peace in the Middle East. I mean, he's bringing all these people together and he's calling out genocide. I mean, it's amazing to me.
I love also that the left criticizing Trump in the Middle East and trying to paint him as cozying up to, all of these people that are just terrorists. Oh, so the guy that you claimed was anti-Muslim.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
The guy that you claimed falsely wanted to ban Muslims from coming into this country and was Islamophobic. Now you're accusing him of being the opposite.
Right.
That he, and all of a sudden, all of these brown people are terrorists. The left, it is just, it's dizzying to watch them spin themselves around over and over again just in order to try and satisfy. It's like their, I don't know, medicine for their Trump derangement syndrome. They have to constantly feed themselves.
They're totally off balance because he's moving so fast that they can't, get a clear message out the media, and them to keep focusing on this plane. I mean, I am like,
I think that also that's part of, I think that's bonus for him.
Yeah, for Trump.
Is that people see these massively historic and meaningful things that are happening, and then he gives the media something to focus on that demonstrates to people like that's what you're going on and on about this plane thing.
Yeah, and I think it was after he was holding, because they watched a video, and then that Trump, I can see him saying, I want a video and I want a picture of all these people that died to have a visual so I can show everybody.
Yeah.
And he's having the pictures up there, and I think it was after that when they asked him about the plane, and he's like, they asked about it when he was in there talking to the president of South Africa.
I had to laugh too. I've heard a lot of, and Republicans as well. They're like, well, I wouldn't fly in a plane made by those people because you can't trust them. And I'm not saying that's not a valid concern, but how many freaking drones and cell phones and communication devices do we get from the communist Chinese? Come on. How many different military physical assets do we allow the Chinese to have some sort of contact? We given as much vulnerabilities we have allowed ourselves when it comes to China and different, but then to act like, oh, all of a sudden we're concerned about I'm like, no. And again, I'm not saying that there isn't reason to be cautious or concerned, but these elected officials and these people that act like, oh, now they're very concerned. Oh, shut up.
Chinese
Shut up.
blimp flying over
I
our
know.
country, and you're worried
But-
about a plane from Qatar.
But it was
I
a
mean,
few years ago. It was, and this was during the Biden administration. The acquisition, there were these acquisitions of all of these huge drones for law enforcement purposes. We're getting them from China, and the Biden administration was like, well, no, China's promised that they'll turn off any sort of, I forgot, there was like a tracking or something that could send information back to China or something, and well, they promised they'd keep that turned off. But we're worried about a plane from Qatar.
so these drones all over the United States, and everybody is wondering what is going on when
Crazy.
Biden was president.
Christy Fulnecki with us. More coming up. I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company, talk at text line 447 KSGF. More with Christy Fulnecki in 90 seconds after traffic. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the morning and then mostly sunny with a high near 75. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 48. For your Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 73. And looking ahead to Saturday, an 80% chance of showers throughout the day with a high near 70.
You've been following the bang-up job the leadership in St. Louis has been doing regarding the tornado there. So five people were killed.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, some of the sirens did not go off. Now, did those people who died because they didn't know there was a tornado because the sirens go? I don't know. And I don't know if that's something that necessarily can even be, I don't know that proven's the right word, but if that's plausible. And, you know, the government does always give themselves the out as to, hey, listen, don't rely on the sirens which is probably smart. You know, don't just sit around and be like, well, if I don't hear a siren, that means there's not a tornado no matter what.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the sirens are there. And when you do, realistically, you can't really have it both ways. You can't on one hand tell people don't rely on sirens, but then utilize sirens saying, oh, but when a tornado comes, we will make the sirens go off because people become reliant on them.
Yeah.
Anyhow, just apparently total train wreck. So
that's not surprising.
The latest is, this is from St. Louis STLtoday.com, St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Tornado siren button was broken in St. Louis Fire Department. Unclear if it was even pushed. So we don't know. So here's some of the story. A cascade of mistakes led to the city's failure to properly deploy its storm sirens last week before the deadly tornado tore through the city. The city's emergency management staff were in a workshop out of the office despite storm warnings that day. This is like their job.
DI workshop.
I don't, but it's like,
I know.
So here, this is what it's like.
Anything else?
This is what I always try to create little analogies, and I'm like, this is like if you have an emergency room, hospital, and all of your emergency room staff, and you hear that there has been a major 28-car pileup or a school shooting somewhere, and you're like, well, but we have that workshop, so we're going to go ahead and do that workshop anyhow, and then, you know, everybody's perplexed why, when the emergency room was flooded with victims, there was no one there to help them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same. Like, there were storms. There were potential tornadoes, and you're like, well, we don't need to worry. We've got this workshop. You know, we have a $50 deposit down on the room at Perkins. So,
well, the Democrats that make up local governments, they're not good with emergencies.
Oh, I know.
An example would be the mayor of Los Angeles.
Yeah, I know. And
so
this is just
I might as well be in Africa when we're getting ready.
I mean, it's just so. The story goes on. Even if communication was clear, Mayor Kara Spencer said on Wednesday the button at the St. Louis Fire Department that activates the siren wasn't working. Quote, it's my understanding the button was not pushed, she said at a press conference. It's also my understanding that had the button been pushed, it didn't work the way that it should have. Late Tuesday night, Spencer was placed on emergency management the emergency management chief, Sarah Russell, on paid administrative leave. It was the city emergency management agency's job to alert the public to dangers and failed. Now, they also released audio of a call to the fire department in which she was apparently like, well, I told the fire department to do this, but I listened to the call, and it is such a casual conversation. You don't even it's clear that it wasn't a conversation where she's like, hey, we can't get to the button, will you push it? And they're like, yes, because there's a tornado. It's glossed over so casually, and according to the reports, the person on the end of the fire department that was talking to this emergency management person, they don't even know if she knew who she was talking to. Like, if this was just some random person calling asking about the storms. At the press conference Wednesday, Spencer was backed by aldermen from the city, several of whom defended the new mayor, lauded her work in recent days, and they're saying, hey, she's only been in office for a month. It's the previous administration to blame for not upgrading the sirens, which I think there's truth to that. This mayor's only been in there a month. But what does she do now? This is where the test comes in.
Okay.
Not on the mayor. that this whole cluster occurred, as best as I can tell, and that's reasonable. But what is this just going to be, okay, we're going to set up some committees to make sure this doesn't happen again, and nobody actually really held accountable?
Okay.
In all likelihood, probably.
Well, you know what she's working on. So I just looked her up. She passed the city's first meaningful gun control law
Oh, well, good.
in decades.
Oh, good.
And since the law's passage in 2023, the city has seen a 15% decline in juvenile shooting victims. Meanwhile, St. Louis is I think it's still number one violent crime capital in the United States.
Well,
it's still up
if
there.
it isn't, it sure vies for it. I mean, but
well, she's focused on gun control. She cannot worry
I
about
know.
these emergencies and this public safety issue with
So-
something she can't control, like the weather.
obviously, residents were complaining they had not heard sirens. Over the next few days, Russell and Spencer were asked repeatedly about the sirens. Russell said Sunday the fire alarm office was primarily responsible for activating the siren. A lot of this, again, sounds like Ella. It's just finger pointing. No, that was their
Yeah,
job.
right.
No, that was their job. Because either you have people that are trying to evade their own accountability, or you do have no one really in charge, which is
Yeah, right. I
oftentimes
mean,
the
that's-
case with Democrat leadership. There's just no one really that ultimately is in charge and running things. On Monday, the mayor said the sirens failed to properly activate because of a human failure, a failure in protocol. Spencer, that's the mayor, blamed the mistake on a confusion over who was responsible for activating the sirens. She said she would immediately rewrite city policy giving authority to the fire department alone. But on Tuesday afternoon, when the fire department tested its version of the button that activates the sirens, it discovered the button didn't even work. Repairs
Oh my
began
gosh.
immediately. And she placed a fire department staffer at the SEMA office around the clock so that person could push the button if needed in the future. So
Oh
now
my
I
gosh,
guess
this
we
is
have a
so
person
ridiculous. That's her job. She needs to take responsibility. The mayor, that is her job.
Spencer said an internal investigation into the siren failure revealed multiple issues, including the broken button. She also called for an external investigation to answer lingering questions. For instance, it's not clear if the fire department staffer that Russell called even knew who was calling, nor did Spencer know if the fire department's button worked during a siren test Thursday last week. She didn't know how long that button had been broken. So they had just tested this stuff. But apparently their testing doesn't involve actually testing. Spencer declined to say if there'd be any discipline and so forth and so forth. But
The moral story is do not have an emergency in St. Louis.
just keep voting these people in.
And you know what?
Let's keep it up. Keep it. Good job, St.
Well,
Louis.
And hopefully there's not any looting because she took everyone's guns away. So there you have it.
Yeah. Well, it'll be great for the looters.
I know that's right.
As usual.
Good advertising for the city of St. Louis.
Yes, indeed. Christopher
Yeah.
Fulnacki here. We've got more coming up. Quick break. I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers.
Thank you. The Pyramid Roofing Company storms rolled through the Ozarks last night, specifically in the western portion of our listening area. If you're in Lawrence County or Berry County and you noticed yellowing on your ceiling, drips, hail damage, or missing shingles, don't go at it alone. Make sure that you call Josh over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. From residential to commercial to metal roofing, simple roof repairs, full roof replacements, gutters, Pyramid team, they do it all. They offer free roof inspections. They work with you through that insurance process and the design process, and then they also offer military discounts on new roof installs. So if you experienced any type of roofing issues last night, give the Pyramid Roofing Company team a call. Now you can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company, plus you can see photos and videos of the work that the Pyramid team did out at my home. All of that is going to be housed under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
It was revealed that Joe Biden's cancer, very advanced. Pretty much everyone is saying this whole timeline thing doesn't add up. There's a lot of stuff about this that just doesn't make sense. And so I think most people believe that someone at some point was lying about this cancer diagnosis.
Yeah, that's very obvious, yeah.
So that makes this story even more grand. The book, Original Sin, President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and His Disastrous Choice to Run Again. This is the Jake Tapper book.
Jake Tapper, yeah.
Said that the Biden family wanted to keep Beau Biden's cancer diagnosis a secret and misled the media about his condition. The book, authored by journalist Jake Tapper of CNN and Alex Thompson of Axios, released Tuesday. The revelation comes just after former Biden announced that he had cancer and so forth. So, it's almost as if there's a pattern with these people.
This whole thing has been so shocking.
What timing, though? Can you imagine these two authors, which is particularly Jake Tapper, total scam, no shame.
It's like,
but one of the subject matters of the book is that the Bidens lied about a cancer diagnosis in the family for political purposes, and then 2 days before the book is released, Biden announces that he has cancer in a timeline that most people believe probably was covered up. They've got to be thinking, you have got to be kidding me. We just wrote about this family doing this exact same thing.
I know, and I'm so sick of the media about this whole story. I mean, and they're saying, "Oh, well, we needed evidence. We were trying to break this story." All this about Biden's cover-up. I'm like, what are you talking about? And isn't it interesting how, like, all this coverage, Biden is still alive? I mean, we're acting like he's dead. I was thinking last night, go interview Biden. He's still alive. I mean, and the doctor. Where's the doctor? The doctor would think that would be the first interview in this whole story. And the doctor, I mean, he looks like the guy. Did you see Princess and the Frog? It was the shorter guy. It was the evil. That was like gosh, the Disney thing.
You're like, no.
That became the prince. And his ears started popping out.
Yeah,
the short, big guy.
It's been a long time.
Well, that looks like the doctor to me. But the doctor isn't hiding. The doctor isn't hiding.
Well, and this is I haven't not heard this addressed. It's a very unusual situation, I think, for a doctor of a president to be in, because these exams are done for the purpose of disclosure to the American people.
Yeah.
You also have doctor-patient privilege. So if the patient says, I don't want that revealed, if that request is done in a way that utilizes the doctor's name and credibility to mislead people, what sort of ethical, it's one thing for the doctor just to not say anything. But when that doctor then instead releases a report saying, oh, no, he's healthy as can be.
Yeah, right.
Well, that doesn't seem ethical either, because you're lying about, I understand not revealing diagnosis, but lying about that to me seems.
And every physician they've interviewed, I mean, he had an enlarged prostate, I think 10 years ago, or maybe it was even before that. So every single doctor that's talked about this, there is no way that he wouldn't have had the PSA testing done in that 10 years. He would have had testing through every year. I mean, especially given his age. I mean, and you're the president of the United States.
I've sat there and
again, they think that we're stupid.
And I've observed the criticism being met by some on the left. Like, how can you at this time with this diagnosis attack him? Like, Republicans are the only ones that seem to have cared about this guy's well-being. Now, I'm not saying there's not. Right. Yeah. I'm not saying that there isn't a political component to it. But Republicans are like, elder
abuse, right?
Was he? I mean, are you guys driving this guy to his grave? And you can say all you want. Well, you only care for political purposes. Well, at least we care.
Yeah,
I mean,
and pumping him full of drugs before he does a fake town hall and a debate that he bombs, and And
that party is just such a dark and cruel party.
it's family. What family would let you? What spouse would let you go through that whole entire thing? And then what?
One that needs the paycheck.
And then that's yeah. And then I'm thinking, you're gonna stand there and not say anything, given all these reports, and then stand there while they say, "Oh, well, he just was checked and he's prostate cancer."
To your earlier point about Biden being alive and interviewing him,
That's right.
what I would love to do is an interview with him, but beforehand have him read that book, and then I want him to review the book.
Oh, that's right.
Get his thoughts on it.
Well, Trump's had to comment on all kinds of stuff that people have written about him.
Yeah.
And they've tried to do gotcha questions. So why can't they do that?
But what would he say? Because so much of this information comes from his trusted aides. You know what I mean? Is he going to say that they're lying?
I hope the Republicans get them.
I heard
They subpoena them.
Dana Perino made a really good point a couple of weeks ago, and she referenced that period of time when, Lloyd Austin had quote disappeared, and the reason that grabbed a lot of headlines was because Biden said that he didn't know where he had been. He's like,
Yeah, right.
I didn't know. And Dana Perino made the point. She goes, maybe he did. He just forgot. When he was asked about it, he may have just not even remembered that he had been briefed. Hey, Lloyd Austin, he's in the hospital. He's having the surgery, and Biden's declaration that set off that firestorm that he didn't know where he had been and he didn't know it just may have been his senility.
Scary it is. And I was thinking about this, that we didn't for a period of time have a Secretary of Defense and a Commander-in-Chief
I don't know
at the same time.
I don't know that it was any more dangerous than they've been in their functioning at this point.
I mean, we literally dodged a bullet in multiple ways.
Can you imagine if somehow Kamala
I know.
Harris
I always think about that almost every day. It would be
every once in a while. Not often, but I'll see a car with a bumper sticker that says Biden Harris. I'm like, can you not get that thing off? I don't care who you.
That's right. Especially when you're getting gas. How low gas is. I'm like, thinking, really, you better pull that thing off of there.
I'll just give you a bumper sticker that says I'm an idiot if you want. Just get right to the point on this thing. There's no need to beat around the bush with it. Chrissy Fulnecki with us more in a moment. I'm Nick Reed. Chrissy Fulnecki is with us. There's a former Clinton administration staffer that has taken to social media, Buzz Patterson. He carried the football for Bill Clinton, the nuclear codes.
Yeah.
And he's talking or posting about Hillary Clinton. And I don't know why I think she's that within the White House during the Clinton years, she was known as a, quote, Nazi schoolmarm.
Oh, really? That's a good description.
Well, we had heard how horrible she was and how she just evoked fear. And, in fact, whenever the FBI, and this is this is public information, there were a lot of conspiracy theories about Vince Foster being killed.
Yeah.
And what all the FBI learned in talking with staffers and her people that they all pretty much said she drove him to it. They remember there's the day before, just screamed and yelled and berated, and they said they watched him break, like literally break. And so, and these are her people that she literally drove him to kill himself because of what a miserable, horrible
It's
human
like the
being
firm.
she is.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
But this is also the thing, just as a person, that kills me about seeing all this encouragement of young girls to look to Hillary Clinton. She is a bad person.
I know
She is
she
a
is.
horrible human being.
And she's so negative, and she is a loser. She has lost her elections. Why would you do that? And then they just asked her this week about advice that she would give for the first woman president. I thought, well, for one thing, she has a chip on her shoulder, so she's gonna be negative because she is not gonna be the first woman, female, whatever president. And so she's going to give a bad answer, which she did.
Well, I thought it was funny that she referenced the fact that, like, if it was that there weren't any Republicans that essentially weren't part of this Handmaid's Tale, basically puppets of men. And I'm thinking to myself, when I think of executive Republican women like Nikki Haley or Kristi Noem or Sarah Huckabee Sanders,
Pam Bondi.
Yeah.
There are a lot of them.
what are their husbands? Who are their husbands?
I know.
Do you know
You
who they
don't
are?
know.
No.
Yeah.
Who's Hillary Clinton's husband?
Yeah,
Who is Michelle Obama's husband?
that's right.
You've got these and what people know Doug Emhoff for Kamala, but more importantly, Willie Brown. That's how she got her start.
Yeah.
So if you're going to try and paint Republican women as just being some extension of men or their husbands, you might want to make sure that that the high-profile Democrat women aren't only known because of their men, while Republican high-profile women, most people don't even know who their husbands are.
Yeah, and talk about not being an advocate for women, Hillary, and standing by your man.
Nazi school marm.
That's right.
Ugh.
Tammy Wynette.
What a disgusting... She's just a bad person, and it's just...
And you know her. Have you
10
noticed like
seconds.
her in the so that podcast of Michelle Obama, that is like tanking. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah,
It's
she's...
still kind of
we're out
show
of
part
time.
of it, but
We're out
she's
of
so
time.
negative.
We'll have to carry it over next time, Crystal.
Okay,
Thank
we
you.
will.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
You're welcome.
Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. The House did barely pass this budget. There were, of course, holdouts, behind the scenes meetings, a lot of Freedom Caucus members that were doing everything they could in order to try to make it meaningful in terms of trying to do anything to get that debt down, the deficit down at the very least, which hopefully would lead to lessening that debt. Whether or not this is something that the Senate is going to accept is yet to be seen, and what sort of agreements were made in order to win over some of those Freedom Caucus votes. And there are other conservative members that aren't necessarily members of Freedom Caucus that are concerned about making sure Republicans do what it is that they get elected to do and help get this country on the right course when it comes to our budget and our economy, so that we don't spiral into bankruptcy and just completely out of control. That is, I'm sure, going to be unveiled, and a lot of the holdouts, if you will, for fiscal responsibility that ended up voting for it, I'm sure that they'll be out there and they'll be talking about these are the areas in which maybe we didn't get our way. Here are the areas that we did, and this is why we feel that it's meaningful and that it did earn our vote. So that vote was successful for for Speaker Johnson, Republican Party, and Donald Trump, and we'll see what all is in it. See how happy or how angry people are. One of the two. One of the two we shall find. Never is everyone happy, of course. Ozarks elder law. It is easy to put off decisions in terms of, you have a family member, a loved one that is out of capacity, unable to take care. I mean, we talk so much, let's be honest, from a political standpoint, Joe Biden and the capacity situation and so forth. And oftentimes we don't even think about preparing for that sort of thing until it's too late. The problem is, once it's too late, once a loved one is determined to be not capable of making decisions for themselves, that means that they are not deemed capable to sign over you as their son, their daughter, their brother, their sister, to make those decisions for them. So guess who steps in? Some caseworker, government. One session with Ozarks elder law can help prevent that from occurring, and instead make sure that you are taken care of, not by some government bureaucrat, but by somebody within your family. And vice versa. If you're the family member and maybe difficult decision, conversation you got to have with mom, dad, grandmother, granddad, and they're still all there, but the time will come when it will be deemed they can't make decisions for themselves, so they can't decide to have you in charge. Government's going to do it. Nightmare situation. Heartbreaking situation. Ozarks elder law, reach out. They will help make sure that you are prepared if and when that time comes. OzarksElderLaw.com. Also, KSGF.com under Nick's endorsements. We have Author of the Week coming up. Sponsored by ABC Books. There were reports yesterday, leaked, suggesting that Israel is planning to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. Our author is Kenneth Abramowitz. He is author of The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemic, and Racial Strife. And he is, well-versed in all these things international. So we'll talk about his book and also those developments, the likelihood of that happening, the implications of it as well. All that coming up in just a few moments. Right now, latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the morning and then mostly sunny skies with a high near 75. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 48. For your Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 73. And looking ahead to Saturday, we'll see an 80% chance of showers throughout the day with a high near 70.
All right, author of the week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. The book is Multi-Front War: Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. I want to welcome our author, Kenneth Abramowitz. Is Abramowitz the proper way to pronounce that, sir?
Yeah,
Okay,
very good. Go to
good.
the head
All
of the
right.
class.
Off to a great start. Well, I know you're very busy, so I want to keep it short. I do want to talk about the book a bit, but given your expertise in this area, I saw, though it doesn't seem to be getting as much attention as maybe I thought it would, these leaked reports that Israel is planning to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. What do you think the likelihood of that is, and if so, the implications?
The likelihood is high, but it's really America's job. I mean, Iran's promised to kill everyone in America, death to America. They've also promised to kill everyone in Israel, death to Israel. So it's actually America's job because America has big bombers and big bombs. So, but if America doesn't want to do its job, then it would basically subcontract the challenge to Israel. And so I'm sure Israel's prepared to do that if they have to.
One of, and to the book itself here, it's based on the premise that we're fighting this major international war, but we don't really know it. And I'm curious if, well, one, what that landscape looks like, and has the transition from the previous administration to the current administration changed that any?
Yes, we're much better state now with the new administration, but even the new administration doesn't have a full grasp of the challenge. We're in what I call World War III. We've been attacked or By the way, you can attack people physically. You also can attack people by attacking their culture.
Right.
So I'm very sensitive to cultural warfare. So the enemies are the reds, the greens, and the blues. The communists, color-coded reds, the green, the Islamists, and the blues, the globalists. And they've declared war on us. And the question is, when do we respond? But in terms of countries, the reds are China, Russia. The greens are Iran and Qatar. And the blue is the color-coded blue for the UN colors is the UN and the World Economic Forum and drug cartels. So we're in a state of war, not because we want to be in a state of war, but when the reds, the greens, the blues declare war on you, you're in a war. And so the question is, when are we going to respond? When are we going to protect ourselves? When are we going to manage ourselves like we're in World War III? And the new administration, although it's a breath of fresh air, still hasn't grasped that it's in World War III right now and has to manage itself accordingly.
You talk about the green aspect of this. Obviously, Trump making global headlines with this visit to the Middle East, visiting with a lot of world leaders that U.S. presidents haven't, and making declarations, for example, of the lifting of sanctions on Syria just to give them a chance under new leadership, which many people see this as a way to isolate what is potentially the most dangerous country in the Middle East, that's Iran, and to sort of show a better way, if you will, and how it can be beneficial to economically benefit from one another and so forth. The overall, what you see as the plan that Trump is embarking on in the Middle East, your thoughts on that?
Well, President Trump made the obvious decision that by becoming extra good friends with Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states, and Qatar, we can isolate Iran. Also, he wanted to send a message to Russia and China that America is reviving its economy, and with $10 billion or trillion rather of investment coming in, and they're going to be left behind if they don't want to be friends of America. So those were the two messages that he wanted to send. I think he sent two good messages. My only dispute is that Qatar is a half friend, half enemy,
right,
also known as a frenemy, and he shouldn't have treated them like 100% friend. He should have treated them like a frenemy, not a friend.
Do you think this approach will work? And if it doesn't work in terms of bringing Iran, to its knees, if you will, because they become isolated, do you think that it will still be better off anyhow?
I think Iran is not going to be intimidated by anything. I think they're not going to be intimidated by befriending Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states, and Qatar. So I don't think it's going to avoid a military war. Trump is hoping that it avoids a military war, but I don't see how to avoid a war with a death cult. It's like avoiding war in 1939 with Nazi Germany. Right. The war was inevitable. You can't negotiate it away.
We're talking with our author of the week, Kenneth Abramowitz, the book, The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. You had mentioned that we're in a better position with an administration that seems to have a better grasp about this multi-front war. Some areas still that you feel they aren't quite on point. Is there one in particular that you feel like, boy, they really have nailed this one, and the approach is just exactly what it needs to be?
Well, in terms of, I divide the administration policy into domestic and foreign. In terms of domestic policy, I give them an A. I think they understand how to fix an economy and fix a culture, so they get an A for that. But for foreign policy, I give them a B because they're not tough enough with Russia, not tough enough with Iran. They are tough enough with China, but Russia and Iran require extra toughness that they're not applying.
Any final thoughts? Of course, people can grab the book. ABC Books, North Glenstone, are sponsor of our Author of the Week segment. But just in terms of your maybe overall feeling and sense about whether we will be, how much better off, if we will be better off when it comes to this multi-front war after a Trump administration?
Oh, we'll be in much better shape because the previous administration, basically, I hate to say this, was working as the Greens and the Blues.
Yeah.
It was so infiltrated by our foreign enemies. Now, our country's being run by real Americans. So that's like a breath of fresh air.
Well, yeah, I guess recognizing your enemy is a good first step in the right direction. Our author of the week, Kenneth Abramowitz, the book, The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. Thank you for being with us this morning, sir. Appreciate it greatly.
You get my article every 2 weeks.
All right, SaveTheWest.com. We'll also make sure we get that up on our site as well so people can easily find it if they forget. Have a good rest of your day, sir.
Thank you for your time.
You bet. Thank you very much. Springfield's Talk 1041. And, of course, like all of our Author of the Week books, ABC Books on North Glenstone. And, in fact, they actually have a physical section. So maybe you aren't necessarily interested in one over the other, but it's a great little section that they have over there, so you can just browse through a number of the different books that we've had in terms of interviews over time. And they can, of course, help you, especially Valerie. If you get a hold of her over there, she can definitely direct you towards those that are the more popular. I know a lot of times she lets me know that, oh yeah, that one in particular, man, that one was just real popular with people. And or if you have a particular area of interest, she can help lead you in that direction. And of course, all books at ABC Books North Glenstone, locally owned. Good people over there. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Here's an entire article written around something hilarious. I just love this. Here's the headline. Ready? Headline.
I'm ready.
Trump posts fake video of him hitting Bruce Springsteen with a golf ball. That the reason this is so funny is because, and I don't know if different people, this has become a theme. Anytime somebody that is a Trump critic, like very publicly falls down, there is a video created of Trump hitting a golf ball, and then the imagery, sort of put together to where it looks like the golf ball is what hits them, and that's what makes them fall down. Because there was a Hillary one, remember?
Yeah.
When she was getting...
And Biden, too.
Well, yeah, the Biden... I think the first one was Hillary, and it was also... She was getting on an airplane, and she had tripped right, like, inside the doorway. Wasn't it in an airplane with her?
I can't remember hers. I can just remember Biden's.
Yeah, well, and then Biden, obviously, I mean, there's 1,000 different opportunities to take him falling down and put in at a golf ball hitting him that is preceded by a video of Trump hitting a golf ball. Well, Bruce Springsteen, I don't know if you saw, but at a concert he fell down recently, and he really couldn't get up, and he's an older guy, and that's it's not that easy to, and he had a guitar and everything, so it's just, I think it's not anything that's necessarily shocking. I don't think people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize he was so bad off. It's something normal, but given that he decides that as an American, there's nothing better than going overseas and trashing on the president of the United States, which is just classless. And he is classless as somebody that is this elite, rich white guy once again, trashing on the country outside of the country. Well, so this battle's been going back and forth, and the latest video that Trump shared was, it's the same thing, him hitting the golf ball. And the part of what's so funny now is that it has become a running theme. And so I just can't wait for the next critic of Trump to fall, and there'll be video of it, and then we'll see the same thing. And now that's actually, to me, the joke. It isn't the video itself, but it's just the continuation of, oh, here we go again. Here's another golf ball video. But the fact that the media feels like they have to write an entire story about it. Trump derangement syndrome. I didn't read an entire story about this, which for you and me, it's just a funny video that people with a good sense of humor, regardless of political beliefs, can enjoy. But, this is something that I think we've learned about the left. They're just very angry, bitter people. Very angry, bitter. Can't take a joke. Matt Margolis has a story. Democrats don't need more scandal now, but here comes one. This information that is now making its way into some media outlets because of recent postings by Buzz Patterson, the former senior military aide to the Clinton White House. But I know I have heard this particular story. Now, maybe it wasn't published. Maybe I heard it through someone. I doubt that that's the case. But this is a story that a lot of people, I think, are going to be hearing for the very first time. In a post on X, Patterson revealed a major Clinton scandal, this time involving sexual assault aboard Air Force One. I know, huge surprise, right? And he wrote, quote, "We landed on the South Lawn at about midnight," Patterson recalled, "and after ensuring the president was on his way to his residence upstairs, I headed to my bedroom in the West Wing, but the night was far from over. Shortly thereafter, my phone rang, and it was the AF-1 presidential pilot. Buzz, we have a problem, he said. Oh, blank, I thought. The problem was Bill Clinton. Apparently, Clinton had cornered a female Air Force One steward in the galley and molested her. She was young, a staff sergeant, and married with children. I knew her, I liked her, and she was super sweet. Now she was in tears," Peterson said. He asked the pilot what she wanted to do. He told me she didn't want to be another bimbo. This is, of course, what the Democrats had labeled any victim of Bill Clinton's sexual assaults or sexual advances. They called it bimbo eruption, and it was to go around and trash his victims because, classy. And so this particular sexual assault victim of Bill Clinton said she didn't want to be another, quote, bimbo. She wanted to remain in the Air Force and be promotable. All she wanted was an apology. In the world of Monica Lewinsky, Paula Jones, Kathleen Willey, this wasn't surprising to me, he noted. It was, however, terribly disappointing and sad. What followed was, as Patterson described, one of the hardest days of his life. Quote, "That morning, as a young major, I had to walk to the Oval Office and tell the commander-in-chief that he needed to apologize to the young lady. I'd been shot at with hot metal, but this was the toughest day in my life. I remember on my way to talk with him thinking, I didn't sign up for this blank." 2 weeks later, Patterson arranged for the president to meet with the stewardess aboard Air Force One. We got the two together on board AF-1 in the president's office, and he offered a very uncontrite half apology. He didn't care. Patterson didn't mince words in condemning Clinton's behavior. Quote, "If anybody in the military had done that, It would have been jail, expulsion, or both. It would have been Fort Leavenworth, but not for the president, not for this man. It was just another day. Just another in my experiences working for a man with absolutely no integrity and no moral fiber. The latest revelation, yet another reminder of the deep moral rot that defined the Clinton White House, something that Democrats and their media allies spent decades trying to whitewash. But Patterson's first-hand account cuts through the spin and exposes just how far the corruption went. And I want to say this, it was Dereliction of Duty. That may have been a book that Buzz Patterson had written at one point. But nonetheless, again, I don't think that this is anything that is a brand new revelation, but of all the different higher profile victims of Bill Clinton, and I say victims because we've been told we're supposed to believe them, and Lord knows there were a lot of them. This was one that wanted to keep her, identity and name secret because she didn't want to be punished and accused by Democrats and the media of being a bimbo like they labeled all of other Bill Clinton's victims. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the morning and then mostly sunny skies with a high near 75. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 48. For your Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 73. And looking ahead to Saturday, we'll see an 80% chance of showers throughout the day with a high near 70.
I got to turn my microphone on there. I put these different. I don't know if I like these headphones. Well, let's see here.
I feel like, remember whenever you'd go get like a new pair of shoes and your mom would be like, okay, now put them on and walk around in them, make sure they fit. That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, it
All
sounds.
right, twist them around.
It sounds
the
a
volume
little
up.
louder than the right channel. But there's Sony's. I have the funny thing is my really good headphones I use when we're on the Friday Road show, and I use when we go on the Great Escape for that show, but I don't use them in studio. I use the really cheap ones in studio, and I don't know why that is.
Because you don't want the bad or the good ones to go bad.
That may
That's
be
why.
it. And I had the last Great Escape that we took to Jamaica. One of the channels quit working in those headphones, and they were really good headphones. I like having I mean, I'm not going to spend stupid money, but I spend more than most people would, even though I don't really necessarily use them for listening. I'm not an audiophile, and so I'm not sitting there listening to music in my recliner, just noticing the increased quality of the sound because of the headphones, and they're more comfortable, and I like them. But yeah, we found these Sony headphones, so I thought, I'll try those.
There you go.
So I'll just see how they work for me. I can hear myself, so that's step one.
Yeah, yep, that's a good direction to be in.
Billy Long, Billy Long, Billy Long. Confirmation hearing. Senators grill former Missouri congressman over donations laws. We were having a conversation with Lunch Bunch yesterday about his confirmation hearings, and I suspect that he will get confirmed, largely because there aren't as many people paying attention to this confirmation, and so Democrats don't feel that they can necessarily get a lot of fundraising footage out of it. Because, it's not like those first couple of weeks with Hegseth and Patel and, some of these others in which they were really looking to create fundraising moments by coming out swinging. I think a lot of Americans don't even realize these confirmation hearings are still going on. But it is interesting because the IRS obviously is an institution that directly affects all of us and can destroy our lives as well. So many of these other institutions, they do impact us, like obviously the FBI and the Department of Justice. They have an impact on us as citizens of this country because of the direction that they are going to lead us, and whether or not there is a trust once again cultivated for law enforcement on a federal level in this country. But the IRS is just such a direct thing. We all deal with it. Or most of us do anyhow. I suppose there's some that may not have to, but for the most part, and we fear it. I mean, you get a letter from the IRS and your stomach drops. You fear it because again, they could just take everything they want, and you are guilty until proven innocent. Most people don't have that experience, but we know that it can happen. And so the fact that the head of the FBI, or sorry, the IRS. Am I saying FBI? I'm in IRS. I mean, the head of the IRS. I don't know. It just seems like something that there's such an impact on all of us that we seem to not be that interested in this in terms of the hearings and so forth. I suspect many of you didn't even know these hearings were going on, and Billy Long's local. I mean, he's a Springfield guy. But what the hearings demonstrated once again, that the Democrats, they're just so problematic. It's gotten to the point it's boring. It's exhausting and boring that these people do not bring anything meaningful to the table. I genuinely at this point wish that with some of these hearings, there was opposition that had meaningful questions. I think RFK Jr. was a great example of this. RFK Jr. had taken a lot of different positions and said things that I think intelligent thinking people would like to have known his thoughts on, particularly when it comes to vaccines, because there were a lot of headlines out there, a lot of stereotyping out there. And I, for one, just as a curious person, would have loved to have heard some questions. Hey, you said this once, and a lot of people, they thought, well, that seems kooky and crazy. What was your thought behind it? And just let him give, again, sort of like podcasters do, which is why we're seeing the increased interest in listening to podcasts. But instead, it's just these irrational talking point, headline, fundraising, grabbing accusations. And the sad thing is, because Democrats have so completely discredited themselves, they lose the opportunity to actually present, oftentimes, legitimate pushback on Republicans or on these nominees, or articulating legitimate concerns that intelligent people might hear and go, well, I hadn't thought of that before. And for those of us who really do want to see the best appointment made, they're actually, ironically, denying legitimate pushback or criticisms of some of these Trump picks, for example, or Trump Republican legislation, because they're just incapable of having intelligent conversations about this stuff. And a lot of the conversation with Billy Long yesterday was no different. Say conversation, not really. I mean, Elizabeth Warren, what a human disgrace this person is. I mean, just these questions. If Trump tells you to audit an American, are you going to do it? What a dumb waste of time question. What a dumb question. And it's dumb because let's just say, for example, that Donald Trump would do that. Let's say that Donald Trump and everything he's doing, he's going to find, he's going to find out that Jerry Smith on 123 whatever street in Aurora, Missouri, sent a mean letter to the White House, and he's like, you know what, audit him. I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call Billy Long and tell him to audit that guy. Let's just say for a moment, in the conspiracy theory crazed Trump derangement syndrome mind of Democrats, that Donald Trump would do that. And let's just say for a moment that Billy Long would comply. Do you think he would say that he would? He's going to say, yeah, I probably would. Of course not. If somebody has the predisposition to use their position as the head of the IRS to do something unethical in that fashion, they're probably not going to admit to it because they're such an honest person. And of course, on the flip side, as Billy Long indicated, well, Trump wouldn't ask me that, but even if he did, I wouldn't do it. Well, they don't believe that answer anyway. So it's a total waste of time. Now, in addition to the questions that are a waste of time, in an effort to go after these Trump nominees, Billy Long being one of them, they oftentimes do not care what collateral damage there is because these are bad people. And an example of this is the trashing of what is the White River Energy Corps by two U.S. senators in particular, and falsely painting them along with apparently conspiring with a journalist, basically to, write stories accusing them of doing something potentially illegal so that then those senators can use those articles to try and discredit Billy Long as doing something wrong, all of it. And listen, we saw this with Russian collusion. This is how the Russian collusion stuff went. You'd have these Democrats that would feed false stories to the newspaper, and James Comey was one of them, so that then the New York Times could write that story, and then they would use the story in the New York Times in order to validate the false accusations that they were the ones who created and fed to the New York Times. Now, fortunately, White River Energy Corps is hitting back, and I just want to read to you some of what they said, and I just give you quick background on just the unethical, immoral, depraved nature of some of these U.S. senators that were on display yesterday during these hearings. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. There's nothing worse than having your AC go out, and that typically happens on the hottest day of the year. Now, if you have an older unit or maybe your unit is starting to show some of those early signs of issues, make sure to get ahead of maintenance before it becomes an actual major repair. And the best way to do that is to have Russell and his team come out. They do residential and commercial work, and if an emergency pops up, they have a 24/7 emergency line. And also, if you are a person who suffers from allergies, the Foreman team also offers indoor air quality testing, and they can help reduce those allergens in your home and get you breathing a little easier. So make sure, if you are a person who suffers from allergies, make sure to mention that indoor air quality testing when the Foreman team comes out to your home. Now, to schedule that appointment, visit foremanmechanical.com, or of course you can find all of their contact information under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
The news leader carrying the Missouri Independent piece, Billy Long confirmation hearing senators grill former Missouri congressmen over donations and the law. Now, one of the accusations that they've sort of broad brushly accused him of, like potential conflict of interest, was that, Long's campaign committee, $130,000 in debt, which was money that Long had loaned the campaign itself. His Senate campaign committee, a month after Trump nominated Long, raised $137,000, with much of the money coming from executives at companies accused of selling fraudulent tax credits. And so they're like, oh, well, clearly they're buying him off. The implication here is people that might have issue or trouble with the IRS gave campaign contributions to Billy Long. Now, the problem with that argument is that could apply to anyone. Anyone who has to pay taxes anyway. If you donated, you're the average Joe, donated money to Billy Long in order to pay off his campaign debt, and you have ever filed a tax return, well, then you could be accused of essentially trying to bribe him. According to this logic here, because you could at any given time, obviously, he's going to be running the agency that's in charge of determining whether or not you need to be audited. So it's sort of a ridiculous accusation in terms of the concept of it, because that apply anyone and everyone under their rationale. Nobody who has a job could ever donate money to Billy Long or could have post his nomination to the IRS. Now, more specifically, you have a couple of U.S. senators, one Democrat from Nevada, Catherine Cortez Masto, pressed Long about $65,000 he allegedly received for his involvement promoting the fake tax credits for the company's Capital Edge strategies in White River. Now, of course, this is written that they're fake tax credits, which is not only in dispute, but White River argues these are so unfake that the IRS itself approved them. I know it comes as a shock that we might have false accusations coming from Democrats and then fake news coming from a local media outlet. Now, just to give you an idea, White River, because they are collateral damage in this attempt to demonize yet another of Donald Trump's nominees, put out a press release out of Fayetteville, Arkansas. And they're a vertically integrated energy company with oil and gas exploration, production, drilling operations on approximately 34,000 cumulative acres of oil and gas mineral leases in the U.S. Gulf Basin. And they provided a public response to the allegations made by Senator Ron Wyden, Democrat Oregon, and Catherine Cortez Masto, Democrat Nevada, regarding the company's utilization of Native American tax credits to fund tribal projects. Now, this is what, in the news leader story, are being referred to as fake tax credits. And they write, on April 14th, Senators Wyden and Masto sent a joint letter to Melanie Krause, acting IRS commissioner, alleging that White River had been involved in a scheme to promote tribal tax credits, which they claim don't exist. White River hereby provided the public press release as our rebuttal to dispute these baseless and politically motivated claims, which appear to have been sponsored as a hit job by these Democrat senators. White River believes, and has evidence to prove the claims, that Senator Wyden and Masto's primary motivation is to discredit former Congressman Billy Long's nomination by President Trump to become the IRS commissioner. We further believe that Senator Wyden used the Bloomberg tax publication as his political sounding board and spoon-fed journalist Eric Schilling false statements to include in 3 separate articles where both White River and Commissioner-elect Long were referenced to attempt to sabotage Long's nomination. White River feels that both Senators Wyden and Masto, as well as Bloomberg tax, deserve to be investigated and made accountable for overusing their powers as elected officials in the media, respectively. By way of background, White River has been overly proactive and transparent in usage of these credits. Dating back to July of 23, White River, its attorneys, advisors, and lobbyists have inundated the federal government with self-disclosure regarding formal letters to the Department of Treasury, the IRS, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, as well as outreach to numerous senators' offices to disclose both our usage and the tribal entities' usage of these Native American tax credits. In addition to this self-disclosure, our attorney formally requested a legal opinion on the validity of these credits by the U.S. Treasury back in July of 2023, which they never responded to which were never responded to by the U.S. Treasury. White River requested subsequent in-person meetings with multiple government agencies regarding these credits, including but not limited to the Treasury, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, only to have these meetings either declined or canceled at the last moment by the federal government officials. To this date, White River has not received one notification from any federal government regulatory agency stating that the credits we've been utilizing are not valid and that we do not have the ability to utilize them. In the last 18 months, White River is estimating that well over 100 purchasers of these credits have had their tax returns approved by the IRS, with many resulting in modest refunds that have been issued by the U.S. Treasury. We have a robust internal due diligence room, which contains supporting documentation of the origins of provenance of these tax credits, as well as numerous examples of tax returns and transcripts and tax returns approved by the IRS. Some of these tax returns were even manually approved under extensive examination by the IRS's Taxpayer Advocate Service. White River has recommended that these tax returns be filed manually and on paper so that the IRS has had the ability to examine the supporting documentation we've provided as opposed to electronic filings which could fool an IRS software algorithm. It should be noted that Bloomberg Tax turned down White River's offer on 3 separate occasions to review our due diligence materials, yet continued to write articles about the falsity of these tax credits. In addition to the approval by the IRS of these tax returns by tax credit purchasers, White River has had its own corporate tax returns approved by the IRS. The White River tax return was filed as an amended December 31st, 23 tax return manually on paper and contained the full balance of tax credits we were originally issued by the tribal entity in the filing. The IRS approved the tax return under examination, and White River has the transcript of this approved as proof that the IRS has further validated these tax credits by their own actions, despite White River providing years of self-disclosure and unsuccessfully requesting numerous meetings with the feds regarding the credits while the Democrat Party was in control. White River only began to receive public attention by both Senator Wyden and a Democrat and Bloomberg Tax when it was discovered the IRS Commissioner-elect Billy Long had made an insignificant amount of referrals of those credits to third parties. And they go on to detail further all the evidence. So essentially, this is what it boils down to, and this is what we have. You have this company that has been perfectly compliant by all of the documentation they provided. All of these tax credits have been approved by the IRS through compliance after compliance after compliance, but all of the sudden, because there was some incidental connection to Billy Long here, you have these 2 U.S. senators essentially accusing this company of doing something illegal. And then, of course, right there, to help them out, going so far as to refer to these as fake tax credits, you have news outlets like the News Leader. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed.